happy Monday to you. I hope you had a wonderful Easter. We've been in a series on the fruits of the Spirit, and I encourage you, if you haven't, check those out. And that's great that you're here today. We're so happy that you are. We started with love, of course. Love grows in the soil of hostility. We moved on to joy. Joy grows in the soil of despair. Then came peace. Peace grows in anxious soil, circumstances that are restless and painful. And last week we discussed patience. Patience grows in the soil of suffering. Isaiah told us Jesus would be a suffering servant, and to follow him, we would also suffer. We need to die to ourselves in order to fully live. Today we're talking about kindness. Kindness seems kind of spring-like and happy, and we see that word a lot. I see it a lot. I see it on t-shirts, always be kind, or on memes that say, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, or kindness matters. And of course, it does. Even as children, we saw when we heard people tell us to be kind, and they meant like be nice or be polite, have manners. And this is more of what the Bible paints as kindness. It's like a parental guidance, of a parental disciplining. That's more of the word, disciplining a child to show him or her loving kindness. As I began to dig into the Word of God on kindness, because I was just like, kindness, but it was so rich. And we'll probably circle back and do a series on kindness because I found so many just nuggets in there. And it's the word kindness, not its variants, but just kindness is mentioned 56 times in the NIV. And each verse was referring to God's kindness toward Israel, and thus toward us as his children through Jesus Christ. It was about his covenant promise to be kind, loving kindness specifically, toward his children, because the promise that he gave to Abraham, and then David, and then the seed of David, which was fulfilled in Jesus Christ. And that covenant promise was to us as his children. Well, kindness comes from the Hebrew word hesed, and many times, most of the time, it means mercy. It means mercy. It also can mean kindness, as you see there, loving kindness, merciful, kindly, and favor. The favor of God, right? No matter what we did or the Israelites did, they would, obviously, there would be discipline. There would be consequences to that, but that God would not break his covenant promise to them. And that's loving kindness. That's what it is. It seems to me that God's intent and what Paul would have surely understood as the fruit kindness was loving kindness. The kindness that draws from the love of Jehovah. Mercy given from love, not because mercy is deserved. You see, kindness grows in merciless soil. Because when someone treats you unjustly, all you want to do is retaliate. No matter if you're the nicest person in the world, you want to retaliate when someone does something to you that you don't deserve. That's our human nature. Yet the Bible shows us that that's not what God does to us. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. The prophet Hosea demonstrates perfectly, so well, what kindness actually means. God told the prophet to go find a wife, and he told him in advance that she would be unfaithful to him. Now, just because he knew that doesn't mean it would have been easier for him. Come on now. It would have been so difficult. Let's look at that. The Lord said to me, "Go, show your love to your wife again. Though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress, love her as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods and love the sacred raisin cakes." You know, the man of God wanted to retaliate. He wanted to. but it is only found in the kindness found in God's love that would empower him to buy her back and to love her unrelentlessly. A covenant, he made a covenant with her, a covenant between a man and a woman. He made a covenant with her, and he was going to honor that, just like God honors his covenant with his bride, us, the church. This is the definition God gave me. Grab onto this. Kindness is reconciliation rather than retaliation. Isn't that so good? Reconciliation rather than retaliation. That's what real kindness is. And that's what we see in the Hebrew in the Old Testament. Yet in the New Testament, as it was translated into Greek, in the Greek language, it gained more of a meaning of moral goodness or integrity. It was based on philos love, love for man loving each other. And this is where we get the concept of philanthropy, philos, philanthropy. And I, more than anyone, am grateful for people giving of their time and their talents and their resources so that others can benefit. Think about this. Many of the privileges that we have, the benefits that we have, are from actions, loving actions of people long ago. I am a product of scholarships and mentoring and so many other things because of the love of man for moral goodness. So I'm grateful for that. But real kindness, biblical kindness, is found in agape love. It's found in God's love, his unconditional love. That's the only way you can give mercy when mercy is not deserved. Let's look at Hosea chapter 11 as it continues. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. But the more they were called, the more they went away from me. They sacrificed to the Baals, and they burned incense to images. It was I who taught Ephraim to walk, taking them by the arms, but they did not realize it was I who healed them. See the parental image there? Do you see the analogy? God is saying, I taught him how to walk. I was there for him. I healed my people, Israel collection, which is us. God's love was unrelenting. His love was fierce. It takes fierce love to love a stubborn child, doesn't it? It takes kindness to love a stubborn, strong-willed child. You don't release them from the consequences of their behavior, but you discipline them justly. That's what mercy is. You've heard me say it before. You wouldn't know what mercy was if you didn't know what justice was, and you wouldn't understand justice if you've never been shown mercy. Verse 4. I led them with cords of human kindness, with ties of love. To them I was like one who lifts a little child to the cheek, and I bent down to feed them. Kindness is about feeding and leading. Do you see that? It says the cords of human kindness with ties of love. That's all one phrase in the Hebrew, and it's talking about that hesed love. Sometimes the rope has to be taut, and sometimes it can be slack. If you have more than one child, or you have various employees or those people that you lead, if you've ever led anything, you understand that you have to treat people differently because some people, and it depends on the situation as well, because some people need led, they need guidance, and some people need nurtured, they need to be fed. And that's where mercy is. It's knowing and doing what is required. And it takes the love of God to do that, especially when they don't want to. It's when they don't want to, just like it says here in Hosea. God disciplined Israel. He did not retaliate. Discipline leads to reconciliation. You may not see it in your prodigal right now. Keep trusting. The Father disciplines us when we deserve judgment. That is kindness. Forgive as you have been forgiven. How many times? 70 times 7. That's a ridiculous amount. But it's there because it's showing that it's unrelenting, because it's founded in the love of God. And that's how you can do it. When you want to retaliate, you can show kindness because God showed kindness to you. Well, this was so rich, and I have so much more to share, but for time's sake, I won't. I encourage you to read Psalm 89. It's a beautiful foreshadowing of the love and the kindness God promised to David, and that he was fulfilled through Christ. And especially the day after Easter, to read that and just soak that in. It's a real picture of what God's kindness is. And that kindness is the kindness that we're to have, the fruit that we're supposed to produce through the empowering of the Holy Spirit. And it only grows in merciless soil. Well, another example of showing kindness and mercy is in our missions moment for today. Our missions moment is Montenegro. I have a problem with my notes here. There's the real Deidre. Okay, there, I got it. So Montenegro shares borders with Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Albania and Serbia. It's a beautiful coastal region on the Adriatic Sea. Can't talk now. Adriatic Sea. And actually, a lot of wealthy Europeans go there to vacation, or what they would say, holiday. Montenegro was a part of Serbia up until about 12 years ago. So it is still has the scars of the Bosnian-Serbian War. Many of the people are Eastern Orthodox or cultural Muslims, and thus the country is very hard soil for the gospel. As a matter of fact, one of the first missionaries there compared himself to a farmer, saying that most of the time he's digging in the soil and picking up rocks, removing them from the soil in order to plant seeds of Jesus Christ. And there is said to be a warring spirit in the Balkan region. It's been there for thousands of years. Brothers have warred against brothers. And even though family means everything to this group of people, there is even a distrust within households. Across Montenegro and the entire Balkan region, mental and emotional wounds from the war remain. Everyone has a story. And only Jesus Christ's scars can heal the scars of those wounds and those battles. And that is exactly what he did for one of the new believers. Delva was a midwife, and she worked in a hospital, and she became violently ill, and the doctor said there was no hope for her. And as she lay dying, a Swiss co-worker came in and told her God did not wish her to die until she was safe. Those were the words. Delva said she grew up Muslim, but her family didn't practice Islam. She said that as a child living in this war-torn country, that she would see all these warlords, but she would look up into the sky and she would see order. And in her heart of hearts, she knew that there had to be one Lord. Well, 3 months into her recovering from death's door, she heard a voice speak to her. And it said, "Today you do not know me. Go to my house of prayer." Well, when you hear an audible voice and you think it's God, you go, you listen. And she told her husband, Uso, and they went and they died to theirself. So now they fully live. And immediately, I love this, immediately they closed their restaurant and opened a home for children in need. You know there has to be a ton of war orphans in that area. So she is showing kindness. She's opened her home to these children and to other people in need, or opened a home to these people in need. Even though she has seen horrible things. Growing up in Sarajevo, she saw her sisters and brothers murdered. But yet she is showing kindness to Turks, Bosnians, Serbians, and many more because of the giving and the going and the praying of missionaries and mission-minded people like you and me. Jesus desires to bring healing and new life to the Balkan region, to Montenegro. Their spiritual death is no different than our spiritual death in America or wherever you're listening today. It's just different soil. The parables tell us about the weeds and the rocks. There's different soil. Everybody wants to work in the good soil, but God calls us to all the soils. He calls us to all people to show kindness to all men. What is He calling you to do today? Where is He calling you to give and go today? The first U.S. Assembly of God missionaries have been in Montenegro for just a short 3 years. I'm sure it doesn't seem short to them, but a short 3 years. They're pioneers, pioneer missionaries, and they were called as college students. Ben Bach read about Jovica. Jovica is a Serbian ministering in Montenegro. You heard the war history. That is showing kindness. He knows the Hesed, Serbian ministering for 25 years in Montenegro. That's only through the power of God's love. Well, God planted a burden in Ben and Jesse, and 10 years later, they are in Montenegro, where they met that faithful farmer, so to speak. They met Jovica, and he couldn't believe it when he heard the history of God's calling on their lives. His story impacted them, and now they are there, putting their shoulder to the plow with him, tilling that hard, rocky soil so that others may die to fully live. Never despise small beginnings, my friends. Walk in God's kindness. Show love and mercy to all men, those that are different than you, those that don't agree with you. We live in this cancel culture, and it's ridiculous that people want you to show kindness unless it's the Christian kind of kindness or has to do with Christians. And so I encourage you, show kindness to all men. Be that example. The harvest field is ripe. Join us in praying for our pioneer missionaries, for giving, for going to Montenegro. I personally cannot wait to go to the Balkan region. And I mentioned before, Romania is right there, and we plan on going to the orphanage in Romania someday. And so I plan on doing that whole Balkan region and sharing the love of Jesus Christ and partnering with the missionaries that are already there. Well, I appreciate all of you, and I hope to see you next week. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness. Oh my goodness, gentleness. That's the one for me. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.